What's up, YouTube? Freightliner Trucker Ty here, and I want to go over the story of why I fucking hate flatbed and why I quit, and I'll never look back ever fucking again. Alright, first of all, you have to tarp and strap the loads no matter what the fuck the weather is outside. It's rain, sleet, hail, snow, fire, whatever the fuck, it doesn't even matter. One time, it was pouring down, fucking raining, and the shipper, he didn't have like a barn or nothing for me to tarp the load and stay dry. So I had to go outside, pouring down, raining, and tarp a load. I guess to protect it from more rain. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. And it's like doing flatbed, you almost guaranteed to not even be able to stay clean. Now, I used to see guys in dry van and reefer brag about getting good sleep while getting unloaded and brag about staying clean and shit, and I would be standing there listening to them, hot as hell, sweating, musky as fuck. Like, man, I gotta fucking take a shower, because you go to these places and some of these places is dirty as fuck. They're in the middle of nowhere, gravel, wind, high winds, and sand and shit. And another thing that used to aggravate the fuck out of me is like, you go to a lot of places in the fucking middle of nowhere. Man, I can't even count how many times they would send me somewhere and it wouldn't even be what the fuck they said it was. Like, one time, they gave me the number to the receiver. I called the guy. He told me that I would have to pull over by like mile marker 233, and that they would send an escort out. So the escort comes out, and they say, "All right, we're gonna take you to the location." I said, "Okay, cool. Where's the building? What building we going to?" And they said, "Oh, no, we're going to a field, and we're not sure if you can fit, but we're gonna find out together, buddy." And I'm like, what the fuck? No, because maybe I don't want to take my fucking truck to a field. You know, this type of shit that I like to know in advance. And the thing about some of these shippers and receivers with flatbed, like, the shipper might not, the receiver might not want the shipper to know exactly where the product is going to, so they'll have like secret locations or some shit. I don't even understand that shit. But one time they told me I was going to a building in DC. Come to find out, it was on the fucking street. And then another time they told me I was going to a facility. It was in an alley. I delivered to a fucking alley in between like some buildings at a university. They didn't even tell me I was going to a university. They just it just the line these motherfuckers be telling me with this shit. And one time they told me I was going to a facility, and it ended up being a campsite on top of a fucking mountain. And when I got there, they made me wait till the next day to get unloaded. So I had to wait on top of the mountain all fucking day, or all night, in a state that had coyotes. So yeah, that shit was fun. It was real fun. But also, straps getting cut, having the tarp, and then repair your tarp. Your tarp rips like almost after every load. You can use protectors, but sometimes that shit don't work. Or goddamn, you do a load of plastic pipes and shit. If you don't know to put string instead of bungees, you can put bungees on, and the bungees will smack up against the damn pipe and crack a hole in it. And you probably won't know until you stop and see it, or until you take the damn tarps off. And then now you got a claim. And then fucking wintertime. I'm not a fucking fan of cold weather. And with flatbed, it was even worse for me, because imagine your straps being so goddamn cold that when you throw that bitch out to roll it out, it don't even roll out. or your tarp so goddamn cold that the bitch folds out like fucking origami paper and shit. And And that shit used to be aggravating as fuck. And speaking of tarping, like, you get paid like $25 to $50 to tarp, but the company actually gets paid like $300 for you to tarp the load. So you don't even get half the money to tarp the load to even go through all that bullshit you go through. And like one time, I had a load where they said it was the utmost importance for the load to be tarp and to stay tarp, because it gotta stay dry, it gotta stay this and that. And they kept stressing it. So I get to the receiver, and the receiver takes the load and just throws it on the fucking ground. And I'm sitting there looking like, yo, they put all that pressure on me to tarp this shit and to keep it tarp, and y'all just throw it on the ground. So I asked the guy, I said, yo, what y'all throw it on the ground for? They told me I had to keep this shit clean. And they was like, oh, we just tell the customers that because we don't want road salt on the load. And I'm sitting here thinking like, y'all don't want road salt on the load, but you don't mind all the dirt and sand and mud and shit when y'all throw the load on the ground. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then the last straw, the incident that made me say fuck flatbed altogether. Alright, they gave me a load in the middle of nowhere. This one was actually a facility. I think it was a load of wood, but it was like maximum height. So it was so tall, dude had to put me on a forklift and put me on top of the load. Now the only people there is me and him. So he puts me on top of the load, and then he goes back into the building. Now as I'm finishing up, rolling out the tarps, laying my bungees out, preparing for everything, I see the motherfucker leaving the parking lot in his car. And so I'm thinking to myself, man, I hope he's going to go get a fucking sandwich or something and come back, and that he didn't go home to fuck his fat ass wife. So I waited 30 minutes. Yeah, and that's exactly what he did. He went home to fuck his fat ass wife. The amount of anger that built up inside of me was unmeasurable. And it was worse because it was on a road, because it was in the middle of nowhere. It was on the road where not a single car had passed by since I've been there. So there was no one for me to flag down. My phone was inside the truck, so I couldn't call the company to get in touch with the guy. And on top of that, it was beginning to become nightfall. So as I'm sitting there mad as hell trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to get down, I only had one option, one way to get down. I had to jump. I had to fucking jump. But I didn't jump onto the ground. I jumped onto the top of the truck, rolled down the front windshield, and fell off the hood. Damn near almost broke my arm. So I tried to call, once I got down, got to my inside the truck, got my phone, I tried to call the guy through the company. The company couldn't get in touch with him. I couldn't get in touch with him. I was mad as hell because I really wanted to cuss his ass out. And then I had to drive the load and still be on time with it. Now imagine that shit. Imagine that anger for 1,200 miles of anger driving the truck because you had to jump off the damn load. Yeah, so fuck flatbed. Y'all can have that shit. I highly recommend dry van and reefer. I did flatbed for 4.5 years. And I'll never do it again. I'll never look back. Because sometimes you just might get put in a situation where you might get put on top of a load and you might have to jump the fuck off. So, moral of the story is, work smarter, not harder, and fuck flatbed. I'm out. And always remember, drivers, speed, time, distance.